Season 2 of F-Sides, the annoyingly award-lacking #1 cybersecurity podcast, according to Muscle Car Poetry magazine. And, you know, the most annoyingly money-losing not-for-profit venture this side of, I don't know, starting an airline.
Yeah.
Welcome.
And F-Sides focuses on the human side of cybersecurity. So, Jason, did I say that more human-like? Because you always give me a hard time about that.
No, you still sound like Monty Hall or somebody selling a used car on a lot. The human side of cybersecurity.
Well, I did go into radio voice, like the human side of cybersecurity.
That's exactly
that's the voice I like to do. But okay, so Jason, what do we got on today's schedule?
Well, you know, more talk about moving the elephant in cyber, where we talk about, you know, what it takes to get the emotional part of cybersecurity going with organizations, teams, people. And today, actually, have you watched the show What We Do in the Shadows? Are you familiar with that?
Seen the movie probably 50 times. I've watched a couple of episodes of the show. But tell
50 times. Don't exaggerate. I told you a million times.
Yeah, at least 50 times this week. No, I've seen the movie a lot. Seen a couple episodes of the TV show, but probably not as many as you have.
They have this great TV show, great premise, and they have this character on it on the TV show that wasn't in the movie, and it's this dude named Colin. And they call him an energy vampire. And the funny thing is that we all know people like this in our lives, where it's the people in the office that corner you and talk to you about their most boring existence day to day, that you're like, oh my God, I have a million better things to do than listen to this person who's just sucking the energy from me. And so I was watching this, the last season finished like a few weeks or a month ago. And it just reminded me of how much that Colin character is equivalent to vendors and salespeople, where they just suck my energy. So I thought we could talk about that and maybe even give Paul and Jason's tips to salespeople of how not to be an energy vampire and not how to make me really regret getting into cybersecurity.
Yes.
Or having a LinkedIn profile, or having a cell phone, or an email address.
Yes, because I think we've all had that happen. And look, I think you and I both understand people have jobs to do. Totally understand that. I have no problem with salespeople trying to do their job. It's the approach sometimes that is, it just doesn't sit well, right? And it's not taking into consideration the other side of that communication. It's only considering their side. So absolutely, yeah, because that's what an energy vampire is, right? Is somebody who's just consuming energy from you, but not providing any back or giving you anything of value in return.
Totally get it. I totally get it too. But you know, I'll give the anecdotal example of what just bugs the crap out of me are the LinkedIn, for one, the LinkedIn connections that say things like, hey, I'm just expanding my professional network and I found your profile to be quite interesting, so I'd like to connect with you. And then as soon as like, okay, great, somebody who's in cybersecurity. No, sometimes I used to not have the time to go look at their profile. I just assume, oh, great, someone who's in the industry, connection. Yeah, absolutely. Let's connect. You know, my stuff's public anyway. So yes.
The more innocent days of LinkedIn, right? Yes, where you could just accept and you assumed on premise. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah,
and there wasn't a bunch of fake CISOs for Freshworks, who's my current company, 100 of them. Yeah. But yeah, so you say yes, and then lo and behold, the next LinkedIn message, hey, so I'm selling a product and it's a sales pitch. I'm like, you know, you could have led with that and said something, sent me the message to be like, hey, I've got an interesting product you might want to check out. Or, hey, have you heard of our product? It's something I think is a good fit. Let me know. And then that would be easy. No, I don't have time. I'm not interested. And we can move about our day. But I really don't like the sheep and wolves clothing approach that salespeople use with LinkedIn to try to ping me first. So I guess we're going to list pet peeves and what things not to do as a salesperson. Don't pretend to be connecting for a relationship of professional when it's really just to pitch me or to sell me on something.
Oh, totally agree. Like transparency in any relationship is important, but you know, the ones where you don't even give me enough, say enough to me to show that you care about me. So for instance, I'll get these same thing, right? Like, hey, I thought I saw your profile was interesting, blah, 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 right? And then the first email they send is, Paul, I see you are CISO at blah, 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 right? It's totally a form letter and says, you are probably it's like, all right, if you're not even going to bother to try. Now, I've seen some innovative salespeople, which, you know, they'll create a video for you where they're holding up a whiteboard that says, hi, Paul, like to personalize a little bit. At least those people put a couple seconds.
Oh, those
in.
are. You know that's all CGI, right?
Well,
that they literally
that's
do
why
the same video, and then they pay someone to go put the name of who you're sending it to.
Well, I want to see them say my name and stuff, so I don't just depend, because I was suspicious like that too. On like, okay, they probably have something, but if they're saying my name or saying, "Hey, Paul, this is,"
where they verbally tell you the name, not
while
written down on that paper,
while they're holding it, saying, "Hey," because they want to get your attention with the visuals.
Okay, so. yeah, but I've seen the ones where the name is just swapped out. And they're using the card on the name to do it. They're not even. It's the same recording, and then they send it out to 200 people with a tag. But hey, it is creative.
Yeah, let's admit, right? I mean, so I think you and I can both admit cold calling is very, very difficult, right? Like when I was in the Marine Corps, I did recruiting duty for a temporary.
Oh my God! Did you have to cold call? Was that cold calling?
For 30 days, right? So they let you, if you're brand new Marine, you can spend 30 days helping recruiters, right? And you get to stay at home right after boot camp. So I did that, and cold calling was probably the most difficult thing I did.
Have you read
in
that
the military.
book, 30 Days in Hell? Have you read that book?
No, I've
30
not.
Days in Hell? No, it doesn't exist. You should write it, because that is
I
literally
was
what
say,
you're talking about.
I've never heard of the book.
30 Days in Hell as a cold caller for the Marines.
Yeah,
wow.
that like trying to get people to join the military, like cold calling them, I would just get all kinds of fascinating responses, and so that was just very, very tough. So in today's market where it's so saturated with vendors. I can't imagine. So, listen, I'll give kudos
for one,
to
cold
vendors.
calling should be dead. Cold calling, nobody should be cold calling anymore. That is not the way to get a hold. Do you answer your phone if it's an unknown number?
No,
I sure don't.
No, not anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, and
cold
it's
calling's
unfortunate.
gone.
But
dead.
let's say new cold calling is LinkedIn sending notes without knowing anything about the person. I've had people actually read a couple of my blog posts. I'll see they'll like them. Some of the vendors, they'll like some of my posts. And then come in and say, "Hey, I saw your post on that." It's like, okay, at least you're spending a minute. That's not like a true cold call. So let's put those people in a different category. But the vendors who just blast out stuff, to me, that's not a good way to start a relationship. Or if I'm already a customer of yours and you're sending me something saying, "Hey, would you like to see more about our products?" Like, I already use your product, right? Like, to me, those are the vendors that are...
peeve number 3. Yeah, I get that constantly. I'm like, you guys, you got to update your CRM to realize, we already sell to their company? Did not know that.
So I think what I'm saying, and I think what you would probably agree with, is like, get to know who you're talking to. Because the way I think about it is like online interactions should be very similar to in-person interactions. I wouldn't go to you and say, "Hi, Jason, I saw you from across the room. I liked your shirt." And then, you say, "Oh, okay, thank you." And then now it's like, okay, now I can sell you stuff. "Hey, would you like to join my multi-level marketing scheme of selling knives," or whatever, right? I mean, there would be a little more interaction. I'd try to get to know you a little bit better, etc.
And I like, this is why we make such great podcast hosts, because I actually disagree with that a little bit. I don't care for them to know me personally, because I know they're just trying to sell me.
Well, when I say personally, so I used a interaction at a personal level, but when they should get to know your business needs, right? So I'm not saying they should know like your family, but they should understand, like, are you really looking for a new spam solution, right? Versus just assuming that they know what your needs are, and then telling you what your needs are, or the worst case, using whatever recent breach happened or that's in the news, and saying, "I will prevent this for you." Right.
Oh yeah, I'm not on your side with that one. I don't even want them doing that. Like, let me reach out to you. The dilemma, which I can see it in your head, is like, well, then what are salespeople supposed to do?
Or how are they supposed to expose their product to you? That's the thing, right?
And I'll tell you, it's not my job to tell them how to do their job or to give them the path forward for this. But I'll tell you, I don't like cold calls. I don't like LinkedIn unannounced. And now hopefully my LinkedIn unannounced drops if any of them listening to this.
Or increases just out of spite. So we'll see.
I have seen this work in one way. And there's a conference I go to. It's actually one of my favorite conferences. And no, I'm not touting it or you have to go, but it is. They pull a different approach to this. So if you're not in cybersecurity, we have a bunch of conferences or things like called Black Hat, RSA, these huge conferences with a bunch of people. And what they typically do is they'll have booths. These are like the things you see for, expos. Like, what's the big one in the big electronics one in Vegas?
CES, right?
CES, consumer electronics, where PlayStation, Xbox. So it's this big floor with product, and salespeople just sit down in front of it. And we as people, I actually hate these things because then I have to go around and all they want to do is make eye contact with me to start talking to me. I'm like, no, leave me alone. It's like imagine 100 car dealerships on a trading room floor with car salesmen. And I can't stand it, but it's the only way that I can start learning about new products that are out there. And I prefer that than people hitting me up on LinkedIn. But what I've seen done, and it's an awesome idea, is what that's called a reverse expo, where I get a booth with a high chair and a desk so I can work on my laptop, because we all want to answer emails while at these conferences we're doing work. And every 5 minutes, a new vendor comes by and pitches me. Says, hey, this is what our product does. This is how it works. Are you interested? Is that something your company would need? I'm like, no, it's not. And within 30 seconds to a minute, we know it's not a fit. They move on. But for the ones that is a possible fit, I'm like, yeah, actually, I am looking. That is a problem I need to solve. Tell me more about your product. And we spend the next 4 minutes to see if it's almost like speed dating.
Interesting.
But they come to me.
Yeah, Shark Tank.
Yeah, it's like you got a minute to pitch me. And that's all I want to know is if, hey, just tell me what you don't need to tell me you like my podcast. You don't need to say, hey, great shirt, which Paul, by the way, that is a great shirt.
Thanks.
You don't have to say that. You just need to, oh yeah, hey, you just need to, where'd you get yours? No, wait, I think we know that.
Yes.
You don't need to pitch me. Just tell me the product, man. That's the end of the day. That's all I care about. I don't care about your,
okay, so let's do
personal
this
thing.
So maybe there's a better way, because what I just heard you say is you want information quick. You don't care about banter, which I'm the same way, right? I don't need banter. If I do have a second conversation, I expect that you will listen to what my needs are, et cetera. But, so would something you would recommend to vendors would be just to get to the point and just say, I have a product that does X, Y, and Z. Are you interested? And then, and the things,
yes.
But if you don't, I would say, are you interested? If no, or if yes, let me know. Otherwise, just shut the communication down. Because I've gotten the vendors who
check
will
yes
say,
or no,
or who say, "Can you please," or let me know, or put something on my calendar, right? Or do other random, unacceptable things like continue to hound me. Like I sent you an email 2 weeks ago. Are you not interested? Oh, you're gonna
peeve number 4.
You're gonna have
the
massive,
multiple. Yeah. If I haven't responded after 4 emails, dude, get it through your.
If I haven't responded after 2 emails,
replying.
But it's like,
yes,
I've had one where it's like, you're going to have
massive
problems, or you're going to lose your job if you don't do, or something bad's going to happen to you. It's like, all right, now you've made sure that I remember you in a very, very negative way versus an indifferent or positive way.
And the ones that try to do it funny by the 5th email, they're like, hey, just in case you're option A, you're trapped under something heavy, or you're out snowboarding, woohoo. Like, oh, dude.
I think you and I probably get all the same vendor things. But, so it's almost just like a regular relationship in a lot of cases, right? You want transparency. You want to understand what the person's motives are. And then you want to have an honest conversation with them.
Wait, what? I'm sorry. Let me go back to that.
Go ahead.
That was.
Let's hear it. Bring it.
That was so Paul.
It was.
It's just like a relationship, like with my wife. I want to know what your motivation is.
Okay.
Why are you dating me?
You know what the motivations are in social situations.
I would hope so.
Yeah. Well, not always.
Ask her.
I mean, I've seen some of these recent shows on TV lately, so you never know. But no, I mean, listen, I think it boils down to transparency. Just be transparent, right? Don't play the games and whatnot.
Agreed. So tips for salespeople: don't play the game. Dude, just be open and honest. Tell me, for me, Paul might be different, man, but I just give me the elevator pitch of what your product does, and then I'll decide if it's a fit or what sets your product apart. Because we get hit up for the same product line. Let's say SaaS. We get hit up. There's probably 10, 20 companies hitting us up for SaaS. Well, why would your product be any better than the other product? What's the differentiator? And you got to be able to do it in a paragraph. We as professionals are challenged to not overword things and make things very simple to understand for both our audience and our executives and our team. You got to be able to explain it so somebody can understand it. Well, salespeople, you got the same challenge. You got to do it in a short period of time, and give me that bullet point list of why should I even give you a second glance.
Okay, so they get the door open, Jason, right? So they've opened the door, they've gotten through the first Jason filter. How can they be successful in talking to you on the next stage, right? The first meeting.
I'm rubbing my hands on this.
I can see that you're excited about this one. Go ahead.
I'm glad you asked this. This is a pet peeve of mine too. When the first call is with a salesperson who knows nothing about the product. No, I ask them a technical question of implementation. Well, does it do this? And we really need it to be able to do this. Oh, well, let me get one of my sales engineers on the next call. Like, so you just wasted 15 minutes of my time. Why don't you start with the sales engineer? In fact, I would almost argue that maybe you should just replace salespeople with sales engineers. They should all know the product.
Just like Office Space, you have to have someone who can talk to the engineers and the people and, make everyone communicate.
Well, no, sales engineers can. I believe that sales engineers are that role.
True.
And I don't need because the salespeople is that cheesy, hey, how you doing? What? That's not, all it is telling me about the product.
A bad salesperson.
The sales engineers, 90% of the time, sell me on the product, not the salesperson.
But a good salesperson, I think there is a lot of value in good salespeople because they know who to pull in, who to make sure is available for you. They know how to navigate the internals of a company and can be a really good ally. If they stay with you after the sale. If they're truly just transactional, I just want to get a connection and make a quick sale, absolutely not good. But if they want to develop a relationship, help you understand and maintain your business, salespeople are invaluable in my opinion, right?
Okay. Yeah, I pleasantly and happily, even though you cool shirt, I disagree, I think. Okay. Like, look at it like a auto, like buying a car.
Yeah.
The salespeople, when you ask questions about it and they don't know, I want to walk away. I'm like, how do you not know the product that you're selling?
We both agree with that. There's no disagreement. You should
To me, that's the same thing for the salesperson.
Well, the salespeople, so the salespeople, I would not expect a salesperson to know every detail. Like, okay, how do you implement it in this size organization using these types of I mean, there's some things that you want.
I get there's a level of depth, sure.
Okay, so we agree on that.
I don't even get basic level, like where I ask a simple
That is a bad salesperson. I would agree with that because you don't even know what you're selling at that point. So I would agree with that. You have to have a basic knowledge of what you're trying to sell. So totally agree. And
the majority of times, for my tip, get the sales engineer on the call immediately. Like they should be your second-hand man. Then, if you've got the cold calling down, you started the relationship. That first call, have a sales engineer on it.
Okay,
you're wasting my time for 15 or 30 minutes for you just to be, and the company background pitch.
Oh, I was just going to say that. You stole my thunder. Yes, come on, Jason.
Take it away, Paul. I'll hand the mic off to you.
Okay, so if I tell you, because I've actually told this to vendors, like, hey, I don't need to see the company background. Like, I trust that you're going to have good people, right? Because they feel like they need to build confidence and trust. If I tell you that, feel free to skip the first 35 slides talking about your founders, right? I mean, for me, because I've had vendors where I've said that, they totally say, well, you really need to know this. It's like, okay, now you're telling me, like, basically it's like going to a restaurant and you telling me, no, you don't want it medium. You want your steak medium rare. It's like, no, I want it medium. No, you want it this way. And here's how. I'm going to describe how we cook it. Just like, tell me what's coming on my plate, right? So the vendors who don't listen to you, especially at the very beginning of the conversation, that's not a good sign for later relationships. So yes, that is a pet. So Jason had 19 pet peeves. That's probably one of my biggest ones.
You got one?
Yeah,
okay.
I got
19 to 1. I'm winning.
More than that, but no, I mean, so it's just like, listen, be transparent, like to start the relationship, be transparent, but also continue to be transparent. So let me ask you, so Jason, now that they've gotten in the door, you're interested in the product, they've sold you on some stuff. What's like the next thing you would look at, like to have because I've seen you with some vendors. You have great relationships with some vendors, and I've seen you like totally like, oh, I'm not even going to talk to you. Like, not rudely, but I'm not interested in this. So what makes that, those vendors that you have multi-year relationships, what is
their product? Okay. It's the product. It's not the sales relationship. There's only one salesperson I've ever had a good relationship with. It's not the sales, it's the product and the support and the actual what they deliver. I'll mention vendors that I'm happy with, that I've been with, and they're big names. So it's not like
this is not an endorsement, by the way. But
it's not an endorsement. But CrowdStrike is great. Exonius is amazing. Wiz, awesome, and that comes through what their product does for me, what problem it's solving, the ability for their product to do it great. Because sometimes you've had products where you've tried to roll out and you're like, oh, this thing is not, what they promised or what they sold in the POC. It's like it ends up being a lot more complicated. So to me, it's 90% the product. Let me rephrase that. As part of the product, I also mean customer service and support. Yeah. So the technical support I get with the product is another critical aspect, because I've had great products that you can't get support to save your life and you end up, nope. And that's a shame of a lot of companies, that when they're growing, they'll start off with good customer support, but as they scale, they put so much money into marketing and sales, they don't, because there's no tie to revenue for that customer support. experience that people get and making sure that it's consistent as they grow. I think a lot of security companies challenge with that. I'll say Rapid7 was my experience. So now I'm like dogging a company, but they were great in the beginning 8 years ago. Then they scaled and their customer service had dropped off the planet. And we ended up having to leave them because we couldn't get the quality of support that we wanted. So it's a scaling issue with a lot of companies.
So the salesperson can make or break the whole relationship, right? If they overpromise and it doesn't deliver, even if it's a great promise, it sounds like you would be uninterested in that product, or it would sour you on the product to the point you would accept another alternative because, if you can't trust them, right? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's sales and delivery, right? Those are two separate functions in most companies, most businesses. And I've been on that side. I used to run managed services, and what we'd have, okay, here's the sales aspect of it. And now here's where we got to put our foot where our mouth was and actually deliver on it. And if those two aren't in alignment and the salesperson is giving promises that they can't deliver on, that's going to break.
Okay, so with that, what tips would you give for the overall? So we gave tips, you and I both gave tips on how to start the relationship. What do you think about maintaining the relationship? What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah, that's another great one. This one's
going to be interesting. I've never heard that noise come from you before, so this is good. Go ahead.
Unfortunately, I feel like the customer service levels, even from a sales perspective, is based on revenue, right? It's who's my biggest customer. That's who I'm going to spend the most time with, the 80-20 rule. And that does match. Unfortunately, that 20%, the bottom 20%, or no, the bottom 80% of your sales, who you're selling to, could be the 20% next month or next year. So if you discount and you give different levels of service based on, it's my biggest customer, so I got to really spend time with them and hit them up, or you're only spending, 1% of what I got to do for sales on me. I'm not going to even take the time of day. I'm going to walk from your product. So as a salesperson, my recommendation is treat everyone equally with the same amount of care and feeding. Touch base. Don't leave me hanging for 6 months. Let me know what's going on with your product. Like, hey, Jason, we haven't talked in a while. I don't know if you knew, but there's some really cool product updates. And don't rely on the delivery aspect, which a lot of companies do. They'll say, oh, we have that newsletter goes out every quarter. Don't you read that? Nah, dude, I don't read the emails I get in my inbox. But as a salesperson,
or it never even got to my inbox in the first place, right? Yeah.
Yeah, proactively reach out. And that's the ability to AOV, average order value, to increase, where you can tack on, oh, hey, Jason, we just released a new product. I don't know if you saw it. It's pretty interesting. Oh, no, actually, I didn't. Well, what is that doing? Oh, hey, that fits something, and let me take a look at it.
Well, and I don't think vendors, some of the vendors I've talked to, some do, but some don't think long-term, right? Because I had a vendor who mistreated me when I was a system administrator / security person in the 90s, and I still remember that vendor.
The 1890s.
Yeah, 1890s. It feels like the 1890s now, but they mistreated me early, and my team early in my career, and I've held on to that since. I will not use that vendor, and it's a big vendor, and so treat the person.
And unlike me, Paul doesn't name names.
No, I won't name names, but so how you treat the security analyst now will come back and affect you as a company, but also even if really bad salespeople you remember, and you don't want to be remarkable for being bad, because that person will become a CISO one day, or the person buying products, and yeah, it's not going to affect you this quarter, but in the long term you're going to lose some sales.
Pet peeve number 7.
Oh wait, this would be actually 7D, but go ahead.
Oh boy, this one. You're gonna. If you don't agree with this, I'm hanging up now.
Okay, we're ending the podcast series if I don't agree with Jason.
Yeah, when you're like, as Jason is talking to the vendor, I'm talking to the vendor, and I go, okay, yeah. So what's your pricing model?
Yeah,
and they come back with, well, what's your budget?
Oh God, yes.
Oh, don't tell me how much cash I have in my wallet to tell me what the price of that car is.
Yeah, could you imagine going to a car dealership and them saying, how much do you have?
How much you got?
Oh, yeah, yes. That's like, okay.
And that happens all the time. What's your budget?
That's like off of National Lampoon's Vacation, where they're trying to get the tires fixed after launching in the Grand Canyon, right? Like, it's like, how much you got, right? And he ends up paying like $900 for 4 bolt tires.
So that has happened to you? It's
not
just me.
I think if you've been in the field for more than a week, it's happened to you, right? I mean, it seems...
Stop doing that. So anybody listen to this, stop doing that. Give us the retail list. You have it. We know you do. What is the retail list, and what's the pricing model? Is it based on headcount, license, usage, whatever. Just give us the retail. We know that we're going to negotiate with our vendor, or if we have a VAR direct, we know that. Just give us so we have something to start with.
Yeah, we don't need a dramatic reveal like on TV, right? Like, okay, and here it is, right? We've been talking for 6 months. Here's how much it's going to cost you, right? Tell me up front, because it'll say, it's almost like salary negotiations, right? It'll save both of us time if I know that I'm not, we're not even in the same sphere, right? Like if I have $100,000 bonus or budget and your tool for the base costs $500,000, let's just end the conversation now, right? And I'll respect you more. And maybe if I get $500,000 next year, I'll come to you. But if you play games with me, I'm not going to use you personally.
Okay. Awesome. Well, this has been great. Yeah. We probably, Jason probably lost some listeners.
Well, maybe a couple.
So, maybe so many vendors won't be liking our podcast anymore because I was away in. Please like our podcast and listen, regardless of our opinions on vendors. Remember too, in season 2, we are closing out the season with a very special episode where we are going to take questions and answer them from across either first season or second season. If you have any questions for Paul or I, or of one of our guests, you can send questions to F-Sides Questions, all one words, F-Sides Questions at i70tech.com. You can also just go to fsides.com like it says on Paul's shirt, and you'll see there they'll have the email address to send the questions to. And we're going to have a whole dedicated episode to answering your questions, and you'll get a shout out live with your name.
Yep. And
please do send your questions.
We're looking forward to
questions.
Don't be shy. Yes, because Jason and I definitely want.
We're running out of content.
Yeah, it's like we're really trying to figure out what to add. No, well, we have tons of content, but we do want to hear your input, and it's good to get feedback from others, right? And maybe help steer the direction of season 3 and beyond.
Yeah, that's another use of it. You're like, hey, maybe you should interview me.
Yeah.
Send them in. Yep. Any comments? Awesome. All right. Hey, this was great. Thanks, everybody. Vendors, behave. Be good.
Yes. And thank you for joining us for today's podcast.